Hey everybody, welcome to Rabbit's Ramblings, podcast 403. This time I'm going to be super quick because I am super sniffly and sneezy. Like every 5 minutes I'll be like sneeze, 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 and it's crazy. And I have Inkulinati to talk about, but I've only played for about 3 hours, so I don't have a super lot to say about that. I did also very briefly peek at Helldivers 2, so I have a little bit to say about that, and that's it for this time. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show. So as I said, I just started playing Inkulinati full release very recently. I guess I bought it about a year ago, I think, when it hit early access, and then it's been out for a little bit longer than even that. So I didn't look at it too much because, early access tends to be not everything in there, and if you do too much, then you might get sick of it before actual release. But I am very happy to say that there is a lot more in it than I previously saw in early access. It is a bit difficult to explain, but I suppose on the surface you would call it a light strategy game, probably more akin to something like a board game. You can have 5 units on the field at any given time, and when they get knocked out, then you can summon a new one. But you also have a very limited number of pool you can pull from. Like, say you have a person with a sword and shield, and then you have somebody with a spear, and then you have an archer, and then you have, whatever other ones you have, 5 in total. You could have all 5 archers on the field if you want. So it depends on what sort of board you're looking at, and what sort of enemies you're looking at as to which ones you want to have on the board at any given time. Although you can't just, take them off again. They have to actually die to make an open spot. It is very hilarious and silly. It is based on super old illuminated manuscripts where they saw these crazy rabbits, and the rabbits would be, killing people for, no reason. And so they thought, this is really weird. What's going on here? And so they made a game based around that. I don't know how many factions there are in total, but there is a beast faction, which is my favorite so far because it has bunnies, but there's also foxes and dogs in that group as well. There's one that are crazy sort of creatures, I guess you could say. There'll be one with 2 legs and sort of a chicken body with a really long arm. And then there's other ones that just look like a ball with a leg. I don't even know what that faction is. They're just all kinds of crazy things. And there's a couple other factions too that I haven't met yet because I just started. There is a very brief tutorial that tells you how to summon your people and move them. And then the game will go in a turn-based faction with each unit getting 1 move, so it can move and then attack if it wants, but then it is the opponent's turn. And then you go back and forth until every unit on the field is taken a turn. There are 2 different kinds of matches I've seen so far. First is, I think, what they call a beast fight, where you'll just fight a specific number of enemies on the field, and they don't summon more, and they don't do any special powers from what is called a tiny, which is the master small icon that can do special things, because there is no tiny in that battle. And then there's a fight against the master where there is the tiny on the field, so there will be, whatever opponents they have already summoned on the field. Sometimes they have some, sometimes they don't. And then rounds will go as normal, so they can summon more, and then you can summon some, and you take turns. And of course the goal in the beast fight is just to clear the field, but in the master fight it's to knock out the master's tiny. And I've only started the one game. I have not gotten to the end of it, but in the first map there was, I think, about half a dozen spots on the map, and it was pretty much a straight line. I would get one spot where they would explain something to me, and then the next match I would fight some guys. But after I beat the master on that map, on the second map there were 3 different paths I could pick from to start, and they have, I think, a switching point sort of later down the line, but it would be like, here's a fight, here's a special event, and then here's a fight, and here's a fight, and here's a fight. And the special events have different things. Like the one I chose was I think a juggler festival, and so I regained what they call boredom, because your units will get bored from getting summoned and fighting so much, which means they cost more to summon them. But there's also shops where you can stop and you can buy new/different kind of units, as well as new and different kind of moves for your tiny. And so it's all very interesting and very deep, I guess you could say, but it's also kind of very simple and very casual. And it's very silly because they're, crazy little animal critters in one army. And like one move the bunnies can do is called, I think, Here Comes the Butt, or Here's the Butt. And you have to be facing a certain direction to the opponent, and then you basically just turn around and moon them, and then it gives them what they call a headache, and that basically just knocks them out so they can't move that round. So, hilarious things like that. Like there's a dog, I think it's a dog minstrel or a dog bard, and they have like a bagpipes, but bagpipes is on their back, so it looks like they're farting, and it's like, brrr. Cute little humor, things like that. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's super fun. I'm playing it super casual. I'll play for half an hour at a time. It's pretty fun. It seems like if you had a mobile device, this would be like a really great thing for a mobile device to play, casually now and then. But I like it quite a bit. I would recommend it if you are into sort of light, not super deep or super stressful strategy games. Helldivers 2 is a sequel to a game I never actually played, but I actually wanted to play very much. The first game was a top-down sort of twin-stick shooter where you are basically a soldier in a futuristic universe, and you're basically dropped down into a zone where there is a bunch of battle going on between the good guy forces and a few different factions of bad guys. This new one is pretty much the same thing, only it's from a third-person standard shooter perspective. It is kind of silly in that they are like for Super Earth, and they're fighting for justice and freedom, and it's very over the top in the presentation. It's being compared a lot to Starship Troopers because one of the main factions they show off is sort of a bug faction, but the other faction that is currently in the game is a robot faction, and so that's very sort of cyber Terminator sort of future. And basically you'll have different goals in the different maps and what you do, but it's pretty much a sort of warlike simulated shooter. And like I said, it doesn't take itself too seriously in terms of appearance and presentation, but it is very definitely a very serious game underneath that. There is friendly fire, so you have to be careful about where you're shooting and where you're moving in terms of where the other people on your team are, because they can kill you. And in the 4 matches I played, in 2 of those matches I did get killed only once by teammates, which is good because you have a limited number of revives for your people. Otherwise, you'll, fail the mission. There are apparently calculations it's doing in terms of where the bullets are hitting the enemies. There can be solid shots, there can be glancing shots, and apparently the glancing shots, depending on what type of material it's hitting, can ricochet off. And again, there's friendly fire, so you might hit, good guys. So you have to be careful which way you're aiming and what you're hitting the enemy with and what kind of weapons you're using. One aspect that was realistic that I get why they do it, but I personally am not a huge fan of it, is that the weapons kind of float around. And by that I mean it's realistic in that if you're turning right, the character is moving the gun and the gun has weight, and so it's not moving as quickly as you're, turning the camera. So there's sort of this weird floatiness between where you're aiming the camera and where the gun is actually pointing. So there did feel a bit of disconnect there. That would definitely take some getting used to. I thought it was pretty fun. It was very silly. It would be hilarious to play with friends. But the reason I returned it and decided not to keep playing is that it is completely designed around multiplayer play. So as somebody who is a single player, I don't have friends to play with. I would always be playing with myself. And so that means I would be playing in random groups. That is, not the best for a game which is based around strategic play and being careful, and you have to watch your fire. Like I said, twice I got killed by, teammates. Granted, that's, super low level play. We were just starting out, so hopefully that would become less frequent as time goes on. But there has been a lot of reports that it is so easy and quick to get to maximum level. There are actually a lot of maximum level players who just really don't know what they're doing, and they kill, other people all the time with their big explosive powers, or even just, running around and shooting, as well as a lot of people just don't know what they're doing in general. So I figured, I have played enough other multiplayer games in the past to know, things that are kind of demanding as they get, higher and higher difficulty is not the best with random people. It was fun, and I would recommend it if you have people you would even occasionally play with, but as something I would be playing by myself all the time, I just didn't think I would have enough fun with it. I would see, all the time where it's like, oh, this would be much more fun with people I know, and I think I would probably just get more sad than have fun with it. So I would recommend it with friends. I think I already said that. But solo, I would say, be very, very careful if you would enjoy playing something like that without friends. Maybe, watch some streams or watch some longer gameplay videos and play it, at normal speed so you see what it would really be like. And, you could do what I did and, get it on Steam. And as long as you're within that 2-hour window, and I think it's 2 weeks, you can return it and just say, thanks, this is not for me, which is what I did. And, if my life ever changes and I do have people I can play with, or, I'm like, $40 is not a big deal to me, I'll just go ahead and spend it. And, if I played a lot, I played a lot. If I don't, I don't. If I'm in such a position, I could always change my mind and get it again in the future. So that's it for this time. I'm actually surprised I haven't gone into any sneezing fits while I've recorded this, so that is good. But I am going to close out quick as I can before I start sneezing and sniffling like crazy. I don't know what I'll talk about next time. There is a game I just heard about that's coming, I think, late in March that looks kind of interesting. I might check that out. That is called Bulwark Falconeer Chronicles. Super weird name. I guess it's a second game in a series. I don't know too much about it. I just saw a little blurb about it. It looks like you are building sort of a city/base, and then certain events kind of happen, and that seems pretty cool. It seems kind of similar to Frostpunk, which I did like Frostpunk quite a bit, but I actually had a really hard time with how sort of oppressive and depressing it was. I kind of never got really far in it. Plus, it was like super hard, so I don't know. But it looks kind of like a similar kind of game where you're building up and sort of recreating a city and helping them, get further back towards regular life, since you start out with pretty much nothing. I don't know, might check it out. There's a demo on Steam you can check out, so I'm going to do that. But that's it for this time. I can't think of anything else to say or that I'm interested in anytime soon. But hopefully I'll see everybody next time. Okay, thanks, bye. You have been listening to Rabbit's Ramblings. If you would like to see the show notes or feed the bunny by sending a donation, you can find the show website at www.rabbit.com/podcast/rabbitsramblings.html. When you type Rabbit's Ramblings, don't use a space. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so at rabbit@rabbit.com. If you like my page, you can also post on Facebook at rabbit.com. You can follow me on YouTube at rabbit.com. I have a page on Patreon at www.patreon.com/rabbit, RABB1T. You can set up a monthly recurring subscription there at a price point of your choice. Be sure to put the number 1 in place of I anytime you type Rabbit. Rabbit's Ramblings is copyright Eric Stryker, using a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Derivatives License, 2024.